This is the Anything Goes Project video stream. Please be patient, the show will begin momentarily. Remember, the show can be reached via email at stalkermailbox@gmail.com, or simply call in and leave us a voicemail at 361-433-5739. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave us a rating. This helps the show to be seen. More video streams can be found on the Anything Goes Project YouTube channel. To help the show, subscribe and like the channel. The Anything Goes Project can be found on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Castbox, Stitcher Radio, or anywhere you get your podcast media from. You're listening to the Anything Goes Project. Interesting topics, interesting things. Real stories by real people. Your host is Mike. The Anything Goes Project is a production of M&C Designs. Be advised, this show may not be suitable for all ages. Many of the topics are for mature audiences only. The explicit tag is there for a reason. If you would like to contact the show, email us at stalkermailbox@gmail.com, or leave us a message at 361-433-5739. And now, on with the show.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Anything Goes Project, and tonight I have an awesome guest with me, Christopher Fairbank. Tonight's conversation is going to be a little different than what you're used to. Christopher motivates audiences with his inspiring stories about moving from ballet to bullets and then to a motivational speaker. Christopher has experienced as a professional motivation speaker, a business leadership strategist, mentor, public information officer, a police officer and sheriff's deputy, and retired professional ballet dancer and teacher, having danced and taught professionally for over 18 years. So here we are. Let's move into the story from ballet to bullets to speaker. Christopher, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great, Mike. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
I'm curious because I have to know, because I told my wife, asked me, well, who are you interviewing later? And I told her, I said, Christopher Fairbank. I said, he was the one that was the professional ballet dancer and then became police officer. And he's now a business strategist for companies. She goes, could he not make up his mind?
Hey, you know what? My wife says the same thing. When you make up your mind, let me know.
Come in and tell her, hey, next week, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah, right. I don't know how she'd take that.
Well, you're doing it. You're on a podcast now. So welcome to the show tonight. So
awesome.
Let's jump right into it. Let's start at the beginning. Your ballet career. I mean, what led you to that point?
Okay, so it's kind of a funny story. So when I was about 10 years old, my best friend was in the Nutcracker, and she said that she needed more boys for the Nutcracker.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the few times I rode the bus to school, and I looked at her and I said, I'm not doing any Nutcracker because I know what that sounds like, and I don't want that correct. And of course, she kind of chuckled. She's like, oh, stop it. And I said, oh, whatever. Well, she said, we're getting ready to get off the bus. She said, well, I'll come by your house about 6 o'clock tonight, and I'll get your measurements. And I said, what do you mean you'll get my measurements? And that was the end of that conversation. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. So when I got home, I said to my father, Dad, Lena is coming tonight. She's coming to get some measurements for some Nutcracker thing. I said, please tell her that I'm not here. And my dad said, I've got your back, son. Don't worry about it. And I thought, well, we're good. We're good. Dad's
He's right over there.
Yeah, exactly. And so about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, there's a knock on the door. And I thought, oh, my goodness, she's here. And I said, Dad, that's Lena. Don't answer the door. And if you do answer the door, just tell her I'm not here. I've gone to bed or something. He said, not a problem, son. I said, I'm going to go hide in the parlor. Well, of course, the door opens. I'm hiding in the parlor with my head up against the wall, trying to listen to see what's going on. And my dad says, oh, hi, Lena. Welcome. Christopher told me that he's hiding in the parlor from you. I said, Oh my gosh. So she came in and she started doing all my measurements. All the measurements were fine until she started measuring my inseam. And that's when I got a little weirded out. I was like, what are you doing? Well,
you're a girl. Why are your hands there?
Yes, you're a girl. I don't know what's going on.
I am so confused. The hormones are going pop, 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 pop.
Oh my goodness, like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So she does my measurements, and then I'm like, whatever. So a couple weeks later, I was hanging out with my dad, and he said, we're going to go and have a daddy-son outing, which we'd like to do. Once a month we'd do that. And I thought, this is fantastic. So that morning I got ready, got my hair all done. I was all ready, and I'm wearing sweatpants, and I thought, okay, well, this is great. So we get in the car and we drive downtown in upstate New York. We drive downtown to Ithaca, and I look out the window as we pull up to the sidewalk, and I look out the window and I said, Dad, where are we at? And he said, oh, just get out of the car. We're going to have fun today. And I said, okay, great. We're going to have fun. I got out of the car and I look up, and what does it say on the side of the wall? It says the Ithaca Ballet Company. And I was like, you're got to be kidding me. I'm like, why did you bring me here? And my dad says, you're going to do the Nutcracker. And I said, oh man, alive. And I looked through the screen window, and there were all these girls in there dancing. And there was a couple boys in there dancing too. And I was like, I am not going in there. And I looked at my dad and I said, what on earth is this crap? Well, before I knew it, the screen had been popped out of the window, and the lady running the studio and running the school and the company grabbed me by the scruff of my shirt and pulled me through the window and said, this is not crap, son. This is ballet. Now go to the bar. And I was like, bah! So I went to the bar. I did the Nutcracker. Everything was fun. I had a blast. Well, after the Nutcracker, I was sitting at home around December or so, and, in the middle of December, and my dad said, well, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, Dad, I just want one thing. My dad said, okay, well, if it's not too much, then I think you can put on your list. And I said, oh, it's not too much. And I said, I think I'd like to start taking ballet classes full time. My dad leaned forward like this and he says, son, is there something I need to know? And I said, yeah, there is something you need to know. And he said, what is it? And I said, I love ballet. I said, that was so much fun. I like being on the stage. I like performing. That was a blast. My dad said, all right, cool. And then, as years went on, I started telling people and saying to people, and they asked, why did you choose ballet? And I said, who on earth in their right mind at 11 and 12 years old as a boy would not want to be in a ballet studio with 32 girls in leotard and tights?
Yeah.
So that was, to be honest with you, that's really what kept me in there was, at the beginning it was the girls, but then I started to love it and I started to enjoy it. And then I got my first job, my first professional gig at 14 years old in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, wow.
And I like to tell my kids, I joke around with my children, I say, yes, my first professional job was Beauty and the Beast at age 14. Absolutely. They chose me to be Beauty. And of course they said, oh, Dad, come on. So I was actually the Beast and I had a blast. Well, that was my introduction actually into the ballet field. And then from there it just went on and I started dancing with professional companies, and 18 years later of teaching and dancing professionally, became a professional dancer, won some medals, and just had a blast. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
That's the key thing. You had fun. You were enjoying it. Very similar circumstance with my second oldest son. I had some parents that were asking me, is there something that we need to know about Josh? Because he joined color guard in high school. Usually it's only girls that join color guard because it's the flags and they're doing the dancing on the field and stuff like that. Usually it's just the girls. He was the only guy in color guard. But after he joined and ran and did that first year, the next year they had several boys that joined.
Right.
And people would try to pick on him like, oh, what are you, gay or something? He was like, I enjoy color guard. By the way, this is my girlfriend.
Yes.
And so I had people were asking me, what's up with Josh? Why is he in color guard? Because that's what he wants to do. He enjoys doing it. I have no problem with him doing it. Do you have a problem with my son doing that?
Right. And I'm sure you get the look of, oh, I didn't mean to offend, right? Well,
yeah, and people don't try to offend me. I'm a big guy, 6 foot tall, tattoos, piercings, all this stuff all over me. Stuff. Nice as can be, big teddy bear, but everybody for some reason thinks I always look angry.
Oh, jeez. Go figure. It must be the size, right?
Yeah, it's got to be, and the tattoos, and yeah, it's just that immediately puts people in like, oh my word, what's going on with him? And I'm like, hey, what's going on? If they watch my YouTube channel, they would know.
Right. They would know that you're just a big teddy bear, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, it was a similar circumstance with my son. I told him flat out, hey, if this is what you enjoy doing, let's do it. My youngest son this year is going into high school, and he commented last year. He said, I wouldn't mind being in color guard like Josh did. And I said, all right, cool. Well, this year when it came time to sign up for all this stuff, he didn't do color guard. And I asked him, I said, hey, I thought you said you wanted to be in color guard. I'm not going to be in color guard. All my friends were picking on me and stuff like that. And I'm like, why do you care what they think?
Right, exactly. Who cares?
It's time to put, I told him, I said, you've admitted it how many times to me? Your friends are dumb. They ask stupid questions. They say stupid things. They're teenage boys. Why should that bother you? Do what makes you happy and what is fun for you.
Right. And that was the thing too, is like a lot of people growing up, a lot of my, I don't even want to say friends, but acquaintances, right? They're all, oh, well, that's just so dumb. Why would you want to do that? What is the point of doing that? And I remember saying at one point, well, if you think it's so dumb and you think it's so girly, then why don't you come and try it sometime? So I took several guys from the football team, and it was awesome. I took several guys from the football team, and they all came to ballet class with me. And it was the funniest thing in the world because it was a partnering class where we're lifting the girls, we're turning the girls, we're helping them do all this stuff. And it came to this one point where we had to press the girl above our head. So the girl stands in what we call an arabesque, a first arabesque, and the guy gets underneath and just presses her straight up in the air, straight above your head. And these guys and these football players, oh, I can do that. And I looked at one of them and I said, okay, well, then why don't you go first? Man, he couldn't even get her off the floor. And I said, well, I thought you were so strong. You bench press 350 pounds. This girl weighs 95 pounds. What's wrong? Oh, well, it's just different. No, it's not different at all. Watch me. I can do it. I'm a small person. And, of course, I put her above my head and I let go with one hand. And they're looking at me like, oh, my gosh. Well, you know what? That gained respect of that whole football team. I never had any issues since then because they all said, oh, we're going to have Christopher's back because he can lift people up like we never even knew he could do. And I was like, well, there you have it.
Yep. And they probably just didn't realize there's a lot of physical activity that goes into dancing and like the color guard and with all of that. Because you're using muscle groups in a way that most people never use them. It's the same way with me. I shoot archery. I've handed my bow to people that are like got arms that big around and they can't pull it back.
Right.
And I grab it and it's like, pull it right back. And they're like, well, how many pounds is this? It's only got an 80-pound draw, but it's a different muscle group you're working. They haven't trained their muscles to work that way. It's the same way with ballet. I know a lot of people that are dancers and they can do stuff that not even going to try. I would hurt myself.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, nowadays too, when people say that they want me to come and teach a master class or something. Well, when you come and teach the class, can you show us some things? And I said, yeah. Do you have a cell phone with you? Oh, absolutely. Can we record it? You're not recording anything. I want you to have your fingers ready to call 911.
Yeah.
Because it's going to hurt.
Oh, man. Yeah. So you went from ballet and you said 18 years, correct?
18 years, correct.
18 years doing that. And so I guess, at what point did you come to Texas? Because I know you're in San Antonio.
Right. So my wife got into grad school at UT. And so when she got into grad school in UT, we decided to move to Texas.
Okay.
And so when she graduated from grad school, we decided to open up a professional ballet school. I was still dancing and I was still touring. And I thought, you know what, let's open up a school and I can do both. I don't suggest that to anybody. That's a lot of work and that's too much stress on one person's plate. But we did it and we had a blast. We had fun doing it. I was still touring. I was still dancing. I was still teaching and I was doing all that. And that school that we opened actually was in San Antonio. So that's what brought us from Austin to San Antonio.
Okay.
And that was about, oh my heavens, San Antonio 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I believe.
Uh-huh.
So it's been different. A whole shift of mindset,
Oh
shall we?
yes, coming from New York to Texas, I love New York. I've been to New York many times, and I've had to because y'all's power plant that y'all have in Queens. I was
Hmm.
one of the people that got called to come up there and make repairs whenever
Okay,
y'all were
okay.
having issues. So I would bring a crew up there to New York, and it would be a bunch of guys from like Louisiana and down South Texas. And we get to New York, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" And it's like, okay, dude, it's time to adapt. It's called adapt and overcome here. And
Yes.
they just couldn't get the culture and the people of New York. I loved it, especially the food. Oh, my word.
Oh, you
Okay,
can have
New
anything.
York question. Ever eaten at Neptune's?
I have eaten at Neptune's, absolutely.
I love that place.
Yeah. I'm
I used,
shocked. I'm shocked that people even know that still. I'm like, yes, absolutely.
my first time going in there, I walked in and a lot of people, if you're listening to my show, I know I do have a lot of people that listen to my show that are all over the country. Different parts of New York and Queens and stuff like that have different communities, different cultures about it. And Neptune's is, I think that's the Russian Orthodox
It
area.
is. It is.
And
It is.
so the girls that were all waiting on us that day were Russian immigrants. And so they were asking me all the questions about Texas and stuff. But I remember I ordered an omelet with the toast and everything. It was huge. It came out on a plate that was every bit of 16 inches. And I was like, everybody says it's so expensive to live in New York. I mean, this is $5.
Right, right.
I loved it. I enjoyed it. I even went on a search for different while I was there. I just went on a search for different restaurants to eat at and enjoy the culture because I enjoyed talking to the different people from the different areas. I can't even remember the name of. There's this one cafe I went to that was in downtown Queens. Uh, had a menu that was like an inch thick. It was like a little diner, and I was like, okay, cool. And she handed me the menu and just set it down in front of me, and I was looking at it. I was like, holy crap, how much food do y'all have here? And the woman was like, well, we're kind of like right in the middle. She said, we have this culture over here, this culture over here. So our menu kind of reflects everybody's culinary, what they want. She said, you can get swordfish. You can get, if you want kosher meals, we've got that. And we just going through all this stuff. And I was like, oh, really cool. So I'm flipping through it and I see hamburgers and I'm, oh, cool. I want a hamburger. Texas burger. Awesome. And she comes over and I said, ma'am, you have this as a Texas burger. And she said, yes, that's a Texas burger. And I said, I'm from Texas. We have never put fried eggs on our hamburger. I'm sorry. And she was like, y'all don't eat them with fried eggs on your hamburger? And I said, there isn't anywhere in the whole damn state of Texas you can buy a hamburger with a fried egg on it.
No,
Why do
I've
you
never
call
heard of
this
that
a Texas
before.
burger? So it was funny, but yeah, I ended up after that. I had my secretary because she stuck me in the Motel 6 right in that area, and one of my guys got a gun pulled on him the following morning by a cop,
Oh my gosh.
and I called our secretary and I said, look, you need to find us another hotel. And she said, why? And I said, the first clue should have been, do you want to rent by the hour or the night?
Oh. Aye.
And she went, well, I couldn't find. I said, find me something else, please. So she got me something in New Jersey. That traffic up 42nd Street.
Oh no, it's bad. Oh yeah, that's terrible.
It was a 2-hour drive every evening, like I said, but I enjoyed it. I had the one of the guys that was with me. He just said, I'm driving. I like to be in control. I'm driving. I said, great, you drive, man. So we're heading up 42nd Street. We're not quite to Madison Avenue area yet. And I'm sitting there looking at all the lights and looking at all the street vendors. And I'm like, man, this is cool. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. He's already frantic because of the traffic. I'm like, man,
Oh
just,
yeah.
I mean, we're not going anywhere. And that's, as a matter of fact, I'm getting a hot dog. And he went, what? I said, I've always wanted an authentic New York hot dog from a vendor's cart.
Oh yeah.
He was like, I'm not stopping for you to get a hot dog. I said, you don't have to stop. You're already stopped. And I got out of the car. He goes,
Trust me,
I'm gonna,
I'll catch up with you in 3 feet.
yeah, he's yelling out the window, I'm going to leave you here. And I went, okay. Went over, bought my hot dog, had an interesting conversation with the man, explained to him where I was from, Texas. He was laughing at my friend that was driving the car. Finished my hot dog. I stepped 2 feet forward and got back in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a blast. So, I mean, coming from New York to Texas, I mean, that must have been a culture shock for you.
Well, so from New York, I had a little bypass. I went to South Carolina. And then in South Carolina, we moved from South Carolina to Texas. So I kind of had a little bit of a foot in the door of that kind of Southern-ish hospitality, if you will, when I came to Texas. But I have to say, I thought parts of South Carolina were a little backwoods and a little slow. Mm-hmm. Well, here I am in San Antonio, and there is a lot of parts in San Antonio that are backwoods and a little slow.
For a big city.
Yeah, for a big city, exactly. And
yes.
And the thing that they keep on saying is, well, it's a big city with a small city feel. Okay. All right, sure, I'll buy that. I don't buy that for 1 second. A big city with a small city feel, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means.
I honestly, my wife and I have talked about it before. When the kids all get grown and out of the house, I told her I want to move up north. She was like, where? And I went, Boston, Maine, somewhere around there. I said, I enjoy the cities. I said, I do like living out in the country because we live out in the country. I'm 40 miles from town.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I enjoy it, but I like getting out into the cities. And my main thing is, and you can relate to this, being a speaker and talking with people. That's my thing. I enjoy getting out into the communities, interacting with the cultures. I don't care what race, religion, color, any of that is. I want to know who these people are. I want them to tell me their stories because their stories enrich my life. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. So come from a small town to with a big city mindset, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, I completely agree with you. I mean, there's so much that we can learn from not only small towns to big cities. There's so much we can learn. And if we can learn that and take it in stride, and again, like you said, don't look at all these other things. Who cares what race, what creed, what religion, what color, whatever your background is? Who's the person behind it?
Yeah.
And then you actually find out not only who that person is, find out what they like, what they enjoy. Now you're really finding out who this real person is. And then you can find out their story of, why are you here in New York? Why are you here in Boston? Why are you here in Cape Cod? Why are you in New York City? Like, why are you in these places? And then you really find the true person, the real person, because you've taken the time to find out who they actually are and what they're about. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we just look at it, what's that old saying? Never judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
How often do we do that? And we never even get past that cover and peel away that cover, just open up that cover and, oh my goodness, we're all like onions. We all have layers. And when we get through those layers and we find out who that person is, you have now gained a friend. And sometimes you've gained a friend for life. And it's all because you talk to the person.
You took the time to show that you cared for them as a human being.
Exactly. And
that's kind of the motivation of this show. I enjoy talking to the people because I think everybody has value. That's my personal opinion. I feel that every human being on this planet has value, regardless of what it is that's going on up here or within your society. Somewhere I can find a link where we can connect. We may not agree on all things. Maybe I can even change your mind about something that is possibly wrong in a mindset or something. Or maybe you can change my mind about something, but it's a connection that is built. It's part of this web. And I like the analogy that we are building a web across the world, because with technology, we're able to reach out so far. I can remember back in the early 2000s when I was in the marketing and public speaking, everything was done on a phone.
Right.
Yeah. And look at us now. We're communicating like we're sitting across from each other. I can see you. You can see me. Our audiences can see us. Right. And they get to feel like they're being part of the conversation as well. So we're changing minds and reaching people and enriching their lives as well. And I mean, that's why I do this show. That's why I enjoy doing it. And that's why I enjoy having people on that have an interesting story. Your story is superb. It is a very interesting story.
We haven't gotten to the most interesting part of it yet, right?
Not yet. We're going to go from ballet to bullets here in a minute.
Well, let me tell you a funny story. When I was dancing on the stage, I was in Washington, D.C., dancing in a company in Washington, D.C. And I'm on Kennedy Center stage, and I'm getting ready to go out for my solo. And I'm backstage, and I'm warming up. I'm doing, just little warm-ups and everything like that. And my music comes on. I hear the orchestra going, and it's cueing it up, and I'm getting ready to go on. And I go to take because I come flying out of the wings in a big old jump. And lo and behold, what happens? The inevitable. I trip on the floor. And I slide out in a split to about quarter stage. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And the conductor, he just keeps on going and kind of looks at me like, are you going to get up and keep on going? And in my head, I thought, I'm absolutely humiliated. So I get up and I run off the stage, run all the way around backstage to come back. And the conductor keeps on that same note, and then he cues it up again. And I come out and I do it again, and I do the whole solo and everything like that. And everything's great. And I'm feeling good about myself. I get off the stage. The performance is over. And they say, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to recognize the President of the United States who's in the audience. And I'm like, ah!
Which president at the time?
Yeah, President Bush, Sr.
Oh.
So of course, here I am. I've just humiliated myself on this stage, and the president is sitting in the audience, which we had no idea about. Well, I'm like, all right, whatever.
I would look at it this way. Okay, I may have humiliated myself on stage. I've watched this man on TV. We're fair. We're good.
Right? We're good. It's even. It's even. So that was that was kind of funny. And, and it's funny because after the fact, when I was talking about it, people, talking about it to people weeks later, they were saying that we're at the show actually, and they were saying, "What? We don't remember you falling." And I'm like, "You don't remember that?" Like, no. Which made me realize that people don't really care about that. They enjoyed the performance, and they enjoyed the fact that I didn't stop. I just got up and I kept on going. And that's really what life is about. Is you're going to fall down, but you got to get back up and brush yourself off and start all over again.
Yep.
Just like I did in front of, and it didn't matter that it was the President of the United States. There was how many other thousands of people there? I wasn't performing for him. I didn't even know he was there. I was performing because I wanted to perform, and that was my passion.
Yeah.
Did I make a mistake? Sure. Okay. But again, at the end of the day, nobody remembered it other than me and, the few people that I can still joke about it, today that, I'm still friends with that, we're also in the company at the same time. And, we joke around about it. Do you remember you stepped on that stage and you fell into a split and slid across the stage? Oh, I do remember that. It was so funny because you turned bright red. And I said, I can turn bright red? Well, if I could turn bright red, I guess I was bright red. And they said, you ran all the way across the stage and back behind and came back out like nothing even happened. And I said, well, that's how you're supposed to live life, right? Like nothing really happened. You make a mistake, you move on. Yep.
I'm one of these type of people. I'll be walking and I'll just trip and people will see me and they'll start to laugh and I'll jump up and go, I meant to do that, and just keep going. I've had so many people try to embarrass me over the years. My wife said they've tried, and my wife is, you're not going to embarrass him.
Right. It's not going to happen.
It's like, they're like, nothing embarrasses you. I said, let me think. No, I remember when I was 17, I ran across our causeway butt naked.
Hey, yep. And it didn't embarrass you. I think after that, I think you can, you're safe to say that it's not going to embarrass you.
At 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Why not? Right.
So I think I'm good.
Absolutely. I think you're fine.
Just try it. I mean, you never know.
Who knows what the outcome's going to be?
Yeah, and I like your analogy there. Get back up, though.
Yeah, you have to get back up. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I talk about quite often. I tell my kids all the time too. I'm like, you can make a mistake. No one's going to be upset if you make a mistake. If you get back up and try and fix it, reflect on what you've done wrong and go back and redo it. Mm-hmm. The only time that people get upset, or they should get upset, is if you don't get back up and try again. Because now what have you done? You have now you failed because you have not tried again. Failure is good. Failure is good in life because it teaches you something.
Yes. I tell my kids the exact same thing. They've come to me, oh, well, I didn't do good on this. I don't want to do it anymore. Why? Because I failed at doing it. Great. And they're, what? Yeah, great. You failed. Because guess what that failure did? And they went, what? They said, it taught you something. I said, do you think any of the innovations that we have in our world, everything down to your phone, to these computers, to the TV on that wall, to the cars we drive, aren't built on the backbones of failure?
Yeah.
And they were
everything.
Like, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Everything that anybody has ever tried, they have failed at some point, but you learn from that failure. I said, you show me one person who has never failed at anything in their life, and I'll call you a liar.
Yeah, thank you. Because and I'm sure that you see it every day too, but you hear these people and, oh, I'm so successful and I've been successful my whole life. BS, you have not. There is no way there's no possible way that you've been successful your whole life.
No.
Because if you're saying that you've been successful your whole life, well, guess what? Like you just said, well, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to everybody else. Because let me tell you, that is not possible.
Mm-hmm. And I'm the guy in the back going, bullshit. Oh,
yeah,
what?
Exactly. Right. Excuse me. Who said that? What? I mean, I liken it to when I went to audition for a company in New York. I was so excited. I was just pumped to go and audition for this company. I wanted to be in this company so bad. So I go and audition and they say, we've got 8 spots open, 4 boys and 4 girls. And I thought, perfect. At the end of the whole audition, there's 8 of us left standing, 4 girls and 4 boys. And I'm one of the 4 boys. And I thought, well, I got this job. That was easy. That was fun. And they talked to the 3 boys and offer them contracts. They talked to 4 girls. They offer them contracts. I'm still standing there. And I'm like, what happened? I thought you guys had 4 contracts. And the director says, well, I wanted to talk to you about that. I said, okay. And they said, well, and he says, you know, there are 2 problems or issues that we have. And I said, okay, go for it. He said, well, number 1, you're not dark enough. I said, oh, okay. And number 2, you're too short. I said, oh, okay. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that's ridiculous. Well, I called my father on the way back from the audition, back to my house, to my apartment. And I called him and I said, and I told him the whole thing. And I said, I just don't understand, Dad. And my father said, son, that is something that you're never going to be able to change. You're never going to be able to change your height unless you take your legs off. And you're never going to be able to change the color of your skin. And he goes, and who cares what color you are and who cares how tall you are? That doesn't matter. He goes, what matters is you get up and you try again. And I said, you're right. So the next Saturday, I went back to another audition, thinking it's a completely different audition. I walk into the audition, and guess what? It's the exact same company, the exact same audition, just a different weekend. And I thought, oh, no. They already told me I was too dark and I was too short. I'm like, okay, whatever. They said, today we have 3 contracts for boys and 3 contracts for girls. The audition went through its conclusion. At the end, I was one of the 3 boys standing, and there were 3 girls standing. 2 boys got contracts offered to them. 3 girls got contracts. Here I am left standing there again. And I thought to myself, well, I know I can't be too dark and I know I can't be too short because they've already gone there with me and there's nothing else I can do. And the director says, well, I want to let you know something. You're not dark enough and you're too tall. I think you got to be out of your mind. So now I'm too dark and I'm too tall. Whereas last week I wasn't dark enough and I was too short. I'm like thinking, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So again, I called my father, and my father said to me something to the effect of, what did you learn from that, son? And I said, well, I learned, number 1, the guy's a jerk. And number 2, I learned that I probably don't ever want to dance in that guy's company ever, even if I'm asked. And my dad said, okay, well, that's a good lesson that you learned, but that's not the lesson I was trying to teach you. And I said, okay, what's the lesson you were trying to teach me, Dad? He said that it doesn't matter what your color of your skin is, and it doesn't matter what your height is. Because, and this is what got me, he said, because you are Christopher. And you are somebody important, and you are somebody special. Even if you're just important to me and your mother, but you are important to us, and you are special to us too. And he said, and that's all that matters. Now you get back out there, and you take that failure as a success, and you keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right. So I did. So I went back out there, went to another audition. Thankfully, it was the correct audition. And halfway through it, guess who comes in to be a guest adjudicator, if you will, to try and find another dancer? This same director from the past 2 weeks. And I thought, no way. Well, at the end of that audition, I was offered a contract with a completely different company. And that guy came up to me and said, hey, you are perfect. You're exactly what I want. I want to give you a contract. And I am not shy, and I'm not ashamed to say, but I looked at that guy and that director and I said, well, thank you so much. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to go someplace where I'm appreciated. Every single time they look at me, I will be appreciated. Unlike you, because next week I might be too short again, or I might be too tall. I might not be dark enough. I might not be light enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be too dark. I said, I'm going to go with somebody that appreciates me.
Absolutely.
And that to me was a big win.
And you probably taught him something, that just because he's in what position he's in doesn't give them, because to me, what he was doing was almost a profiling thing. He just didn't want you.
Right. Right.
I mean, if you don't want me, tell me you don't want me. Don't make something up each time. I mean, you could have saved us both a lot of time on the second interview when I walked in and said, no, I already told you I don't want you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what?
Yeah.
My life would have been a whole lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You don't have to deal with assholes. And yes,
Right.
You can say that on my show.
Oh, but again, what did it teach me? It taught me a good lesson that this stuff is going to happen throughout life. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
who you are, where you come from. This stuff's going to happen. But again, you have to pick yourself up and move on.
Yeah.
And if you don't, well, then you have failed. And it's not a good failure, because you've actually failed and you've said, well, I can't do anything else. Well, come on. All these successes have all been for the better.
Absolutely.
Look at Thomas Edison, for crying out loud. He never once said he failed. What he said was, oh, look at all those times that it didn't go right. It taught me something better, and it taught me a new way of doing it to reach my goal. Okay, what else can I ask for?
Absolutely. Yeah, but Thomas Edison got it from Tesla.
Yeah, well. Okay, wherever he got it from, right? Wherever he got it from, he still got it.
Okay, so we're going into corporate espionage here. It didn't work that way. We're gonna do it this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know anything about it, go read some history books. I mean, this should be well known by now.
Yeah. Yes.
But yes, I do agree. I mean, Henry Ford, did he get did his first car run correctly?
No.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same thing. Did we put a man on the moon the first try? The first try.
Not even close.
The only reason we got a man on the moon was because Russia was threatening to go there first.
And I think that was our incentive, wasn't it?
It was. Have you ever read Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, The Space Chronicles?
I have not, but I probably need to.
It is excellent, because he goes into the whole motivation behind the space race, and that was America's motivation. Russia was on their way to the moon first. They had already put Sputnik into space.
Uh-huh.
They had already sent an animal into space. Next was a human.
Yeah.
And then Yuri went to space.
Yep, that's right.
Next, they were saying, we're going to the moon. And that was when John F. Kennedy gave his big speech, like, we're going to go to the moon and all this. And boy, got the America pumped.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it just takes motivation. And we failed a bunch in that. I've worked in the space program. My job, my particular profession is working in the machining and engineering field. I've actually machined stuff for NASA and Boeing and all these other companies that are in the aerospace industry. So I know the failures. It's if we look back on our history as a civilization, everything is built upon a failure.
Yes,
even our foundations of our government are built on failures.
Yeah, big failures at that.
Yes, we learned from the mistakes and we created something new.
Yes.
We still got problems going on right now. Yes, but hopefully we're learning from them.
Right.
As a society, I mean, I hope we're learning for something. I live in the South. I live in probably, well, you live right here in Texas too. We're in the middle of all of this crap that's going on in society right now. the hatred, the bigotry, and all the division and everything that's going on. And like I said, I'm in a small town area. I see it every day, and it aggravates me that some of these people are so close-minded and they won't learn from our past mistakes and accept things that are going on right now. I've gotten ridiculed because I bring people onto my show that are part of the LGBT community. I have no problem with anybody. I love them just as much as I love everybody else. I mean,
Right.
that's part of that to me. That's what makes the diversity of everything.
And it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Love who you want to love, people.
Yeah, right. Love is love. Love is love. And who am I to sit here and judge you for who you love?
Yeah.
I can't do that, and I won't do that, and I will not raise my children to do that either, because that's not going to happen.
I saw the perfect little thing the other day. It was on the Facebook. It was one of the little memes. It was a drawing. It was like, I guess this guy does comic books like this, but they're not colored in. It was a drawing of a father and son walking together. The son was probably about 9 or 10 years old. And in front of them was 2 men holding hands. And the son looks up at the dad and goes, "Dad, why are those 2 men holding hands?" And Dad turns and looking. I guess they really like each other. Maybe they love each other. And at the bottom of it said, "End of conversation."
Yeah, and there you have it.
Yep.
And there you have it.
Oh, man. So,
Yeah.
sorry about that. We chased rabbits there for a second. Let's continue on with the ballet. And eventually we're going to get to the bullets and the professional speaking. Hey, we got plenty of time. Like I said, we're slotted for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long we want to go.
All right. No worries. Well, so I guess another point is with the whole dancing is it got to the point too where as I was auditioning for companies and I did a couple shows on Broadway, and then came the point where I want to say my morality and my integrity came into check, like very quickly, very, very quickly. I was doing a show and the assistant director comes in, and after rehearsal comes into the rehearsal room where we were all sitting as dancers and actors and singers or whatever, and said, "Hey, Christopher, come here real quick. I need to talk to you." And I thought, okay, cool. First thing running through my head, I'm 17 years old, 16 or 17 years old. I'm thinking, oh no, did I do something wrong? And so of course, all those thoughts are going through my mind. Oh goodness, what's going to happen? And the assistant director says to me, "Hey, would you like a new part?" And I was like, "Well, I think I'd like a new part. Sure. What is it?" "Well, it's one of the leads. It's one of the demi leads." And I thought, oh, cool. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want that, because that gives me more stage time, gives me more notoriety, puts me out in the public a little bit more. People now are starting to see who I am. I said, absolutely I would. And he said, "Well, you can get this part if you sleep for the part." And I said, okay, not a problem. I said, what's that?
17 years old. He's telling you to sleep for the part.
16 or 17 years old. And I said, and so of course I'm so naive, I don't even know what that means. So I said, not a problem, sir. I'll sleep for the part. So I went home. I left rehearsal early. I went home and I went to bed early. The next day I woke up late. In the middle of rehearsals, when I wasn't doing anything and I had like a 2-hour break, I went and I took a nap. And then I'd leave for rehearsal. I'd go home. I wouldn't hang out with all my buddies, all my friends, and I'd go to bed early. And about a week later, because I didn't know what that meant. So then a week later, I was in the studio and the rehearsal studio, and the assistant director comes up and says, "Okay, are you ready to sleep for the part?" And I said, "Oh, sir," I said, "I've been taking naps. I've been going to bed early. I've been waking up late." And I'm trying to lay this whole nice thing out there just to show him that I have done my homework. I've done what I was supposed to do. I didn't understand what that meant. And he said, no, I mean sleep with me. And I was like, "What do you mean, like take a nap with you or something?" I was like, I don't understand. He goes, "No, like sleep with me. Like you and I are going to have relations together." And I said, like we're going to like make out and stuff? I'm 16 or 17 years old, and I shouldn't say I was sheltered, because I don't think I was that sheltered, but I think I was just shocked.
No, but it was more of you're 16 or 17, like you said, it's the naivety of it.
Yeah, it's the naivety of it. Absolutely. And so I said, no, that's not going to happen." "Well, then you don't get the part." And I said, "Then I don't want the part." He said, well, you might just lose your job altogether. And I said, then fine. There's other shows I can dance in. There's something else I can go to. There's always opportunities. We're in New York City, for crying out loud. There's plenty of stuff going on. I can find something else. Thank you very much for the opportunity, but I've got to leave. I'm out of here. So my integrity came into check and my morality came into check. And I remember not saying anything to anybody for like a week or two, because number one, I was ashamed. And number two, I felt like if I say something, I'm going to lose my opportunity altogether. And then I thought, and then if I lose it all, well, I'm probably going to be blacklisted and I won't be able to dance anywhere in any company anytime ever again. And that's the end of that career. And so I didn't say anything. Well, lo and behold, the director came in one day to rehearsal, and I guess he could see that I was a little down and I just was a little taken back by things. And anytime the assistant director would give me a correction, he would kind of like rub my shoulder and, it's okay, sweetheart, just come over here and try this. And, trying to push the issue, right? And I'm thinking, no, this is not okay. Well, the director, I guess, realized that something was off. And so he pulled me aside during one of the breaks and he said, hey, Christopher, what's going on? I noticed something's going on with you. You're not your happy-go-lucky, cheerful, big-smiled self like you always are. We give you a correction. We tell you you're doing something wrong. You smile and you do it again, and you do it until you get it right. And he said, but today you're doing it. You're taking the corrections like you always do. You're making the corrections and you're applying them like you always do, but you're not the same Christopher that we all know and love. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And the assistant director started walking up at that point in time, and I said, I can't say anything right now. And the director, being the great director that he was, stopped and said, let's go to my office and talk. And I said, okay. And the assistant director said, do I need to come along too? And the director said, no, you don't need to come. Just start rehearsal again. I'm going to go and talk to Christopher. I need to talk to him about something. And it's private and confidential. And I thought, okay, great. We get in there and I told him exactly what happened. I told him what I had done and sleeping, and he had the same reaction you did. He started laughing and was like, oh, okay, that's not what he meant. I said, I realized that after the fact.
Yes.
I got it after the fact. I'm a little slow. Okay, that granted. So the director right then and there said, we're going to take care of this because this is not going to happen ever again. Not to you and not to anybody else. Whether it's a male or a female, this is not going to happen. Period. And I thought in my head, as a teenager, I thought, yeah, right. He's just saying this because he doesn't want to lose an actor or a dancer from the show. That would mess everything up because, there's a certain way that things are and there's certain placement. You got to have a certain amount of people in this part. And I'm in that part that has a lot of people. But no, sure enough, we walked back into the rehearsal together and he said publicly in front of the whole cast, which at first I was a little humiliated because I thought, I can't believe he's doing this. But then I felt great because he said, these kind of things will not happen in my show. You will not have to sleep for any parts. You will not have to do anything that you do not want to do on your own free will and accord to get a part. And if you do something like that to get a part, well, guess what? I will release you from your contract myself, just as I'm doing now. And he looked at the assistant director and he said, for instance, you're fired. Take your stuff and go, because you will not make my dancers and my actors sleep with you to get a better part. And
how many had done that already?
Well, that's the thing is I'm sure plenty of them have. I'm sure plenty of them had at that point in time. The great thing is that after the director said that and the assistant director was like, well, who told you? And that's when I knew that it wasn't just me. Because when he said, who told you? I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Who told you? Does it matter? Well, when he walked out of that room, I will tell you what, everybody started clapping and yelling and hooting and hollering, and this is great and it's wonderful. And we had a great show and everything was fantastic after that. But that right there, called me into check of going, okay, who am I and what do I stand for? And that right then was a turning point in my life where I said, okay, I've got to actually, I'm a young guy, I'm a young kid in this big people's world, and I need to stand up for myself and let people know this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be. And guess what? You aren't going to change me because who I am is who I am. You like it or you don't. You take me or you leave me, but either way, I'm still Christopher, and that's who I'm going to be.
And in a way, I think it also taught you something else, that yes, sometimes you can find confidence in other people as well.
Absolutely.
Your trust had been destroyed by the assistant director, but the director showed you that he was a man of integrity and morals as well.
Yes. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned, is that there's always two groups of people, right? There's people that are going to try and knock you down, but then there's those that are there that when you get knocked down, they're going to be there to pick you up and continue to help you walk until you're able to run again. And that right there is what that director did. And that was amazing, because he showed me that trust can still be there, and trust is still instilled within that group and within him. Because then if anything went wrong, I could go to him and I could freely talk to him, because I knew he would listen. And it wasn't just listening because, oh, this is just another one of my artists coming in to complain. And it wasn't complaints. It was just, hey, look, boss, I got something going on today. Is there any way? Absolutely, go ahead. You're free to go. If you need to go early, whatever the case may be. It instilled trust and instilled confidence. It instilled courage. And I think the biggest thing, it instilled respect. And that was the biggest thing I took away. And that was phenomenal. That was phenomenal.
And it's hard to find a supervisor or a boss or somebody who has that kind of integrity, that's willing to do that. Most of the time, bosses that you deal with in corporations and CEOs and stuff are out for number one. They don't ever look out for their own employees. And I know that's probably something that you talk about too when you're dealing with corporations and stuff. It's like, if you train, I think it was Richard Branson that said this, where if you train your employees to leave, but treat them right so they won't leave.
Yes. And I think I do believe that that's one of Virgin Airlines, if you will, mottos, right? And it's fantastic, because if you do treat your employees and treat them and get them to the point where they can be hired by anybody, guess what? They're never going to leave, because you have treated them right, and you've taught them and built them up in the way that you want them to be built up. And they see that, they realize that, and they want to stay because they are appreciated.
You've built that loyalty in them.
Right.
And that is something that is really so hard to find in today's corporate world.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I've been told because there was a particular thing I wanted to learn. So I took it upon myself to start learning it. Well, I asked one of the engineers, it was a new design software that I had never dealt with. And so I asked one of the engineers, said, hey, look, can you show me how to use this? Because I've never used this software before, and I'd be interested in doing it. And he was like, yeah, great, man. I'd love to show you. So we were meeting on our lunch breaks in the boardroom and sitting down. I had my laptop, he had his, and we were going over, and he was showing me how all the ins and outs goes, because it was nothing like AutoCAD or anything like that. It was totally different. And so the big boss walked by and saw us doing that. Well, later that day, he got told, do not teach me how to do that. And I was like, why? He actually came downstairs pissed off and told me, he said, I was told specifically, do not teach you how to do that, because you're going to learn it and then you're going to go somewhere else and work for more money.
Oh my goodness.
So he got so mad, he actually went and printed off the whole manual for me and handed it to me, and it's about that thick. With the company printer.
I was about to say, please tell me it was with the company printer.
He shot the whole file to the Xerox machine and went over there and loaded a couple of reams of paper in it. And we're not talking like little sheets of paper. It was that big A6 paper.
Oh, wow. Oh, that is awesome.
He came downstairs later it was before we left that day. He came downstairs and said, here you go. Boom. This is everything you need to know about this software. Alrighty then.
And thank you.
And thank you. Actually, it's sitting on my shelf up there. I still use it.
And you know, I love that you bring that up, because it brings me to a very important point, is that these executives and these CEOs and CFOs or whatever, the managers, what they don't realize, I think a lot of the times, is that when we are teaching other people, they're going to stay. You're teaching somebody else, because now guess what? You've got 2 or 3 people or a team of 10 or 15 people that can now work on a bigger project and get something better accomplished, instead of having 1 or 2 people on this project and always going, I've got a deadline. Why isn't it done yet? Why isn't it done yet? Well, there's only 2 of us working on this project that is a multi-million-dollar project that should take 10, 15 years to do. And you got 2 of us on it and you want it done tomorrow. Well, guess what? Teach other people allow other people to grow, allow other people to put their hands in it and get in there. And then guess what? You may not have it by tomorrow, but you'll have it in shorter time than 2 or 3 years.
And that was my whole purpose for wanting to learn this particular software, is because what everybody else was starting to use in the corporation. And I was on a totally different software. And I was like, well, maybe I need to learn this too, so that way we can all be on the same page. But because I wasn't part of that engineering staff, they didn't want me to learn it, because I had actually talked with that engineer on multiple occasions. He's actually a friend of mine. He lived down the road from me for a while. And he and I talked all the time. He's like, I'd love for somebody to be able to just take one of these parts and actually draw up a blueprint or a draft this out, so I don't have to stop working on a project to do that for you guys. And I said, well, if I had the same software you were using, there would be no conflict in softwares here, because I'd do it on my software and then we'd send it to like the server or whatever. Then he can't open it or make any changes if he needs to. There's a conflict of software. So I was like, well, teach me the one that you're using, so that way I can be on the same page with everybody else. And so if I do something, I send it to the server. You need to make changes to it, or to see if it's actually going to work in this one particular part that you're working on, and we can make the changes together. But that's not how it ended up working.
And unfortunately, that's a norm right now in the business world. That's a norm, and it's a shame. But when we talk to these CEOs and these big, the big wigs, if you will, they all have the same response, and it's pretty easy and it's pretty simple. Well, I don't want to have to pay an extra person to do this. You're not paying an extra person to do it. What you're doing is you're training somebody else to do this same exact job that this other person is doing. You just move that second person over there to help this first person with that job and with that responsibility. Oh, but then I have to hire another person. Who said you had to hire somebody else? Who said you had to hire? This is a big company. You may eventually have to hire somebody else because you move that person out of a position.
But how many people are waiting to maybe move up and want to learn something?
Exactly. And why are we hindering that?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that happens a lot, is we're just hindering their progress. And really what I wish they would understand and they would come to realize is that not only are you hindering the progress and the progression of these people that are working for you, or working, as I like to say, working with you, you're also hindering the progress and the progression of your company. Because you're being stagnant and you're not letting people move. You're making sure that they plateau. Well, go ahead and make them plateau, because your business is going to plateau too.
And that's also why we have the high turnaround rates.
That's exactly why.
Our company actually deals with contractors, private contractors, because they have such a high turnaround rate. And it costs the company so much to actually bring a person fully into the company, because now you've got the insurance. They've had to take time to go through orientation, all these different OSHA safety training classes and stuff like that. Well, they don't have to do that with a contractor. Contractor can start work next day. He goes, takes his drug test, takes his little forklift driving test, and he's in there working the next day, and he's getting paid $9 an hour. He hates it. He's out. Bring in the next guy.
Right. Bring in the next guy.
Bring in the next guy, and they constantly roll them through. I can walk out to any part of this. It's one of the largest chemical plants in the world that I work with. And I can walk out into the main area and stuff, and I never see the same people twice.
You see, and that's a shame. And that's a shame. And
it's different from when I first started out there. I started working out there in the early 90s. And back then it was totally different. If you hired in with the plant, you got immediately hired into the plant. They treated you right. You got your vacation days immediately starting and all this stuff. Great. I enjoyed working there, but I wanted more for myself. I went to college. Spent 4 years in college, got my degree in mechanical applications. And during that process, I was doing an apprenticeship program as a machinist. So I got the mechanical and I knew how to make it. Loved it. Went off and did that for years, started working with nuclear power plants and doing all this stuff. Well, I came back to this area. I probably wouldn't have come back to this area, but we came back to this area because my wife's mother was having some health issues. So great. We came back to this area. I went back out to the plant because 5 miles down the road.
Right. Why not? Right.
I mean, 5 miles down the road, I make damn good money, and Yeah, it's not. I'm not doing like everybody else, having to drive 40 miles from town to get here and stuff. I literally was riding my bicycle.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
I was enjoying it, and I still enjoy it. But there's so much that needs to change. And it's a mentality. It's a mental shift that's going to have to take through the higher ups, and it's going to have to trickle down to everybody else, because I've talked about this. Actually, I did a whole series of shows about a week and a half ago on attitudes.
Hmm.
The five truths of attitude and the 7 axioms of attitude. Similar to the ones that John C. Maxwell has talked about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
and I went through all of that, and I was using those to not name people, but to just describe certain people we come into contact with in our work life and our home life and within our tribe, our communities. And as I was even doing this show, I would go to work the next day and be like, yeah, there's my people I was talking about.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wait, you're the one with the attitude of critique. You're the one who's always in a bad mood. It's like, oh, crap, I just retaught myself everything. Why? I was so much happier being naive.
Right. Sometimes it's better to be naive, right?
Yes.
Sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Not all the times. No, I don't think I could ever live as a naive person. I have to have knowledge. I have to have the growth. I'm an artist by nature. I'm a published author too. So I mean, I've got to have stuff going on at all times. Being creative, doing this podcast. That's a form of my creativity. Talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a true art. I completely agree. Absolutely is. Absolutely is.
So are we about to move into the bullets?
Let's do it.
Let's go for it. Ballet to bullets. All right. So how did we get there? That's the one my wife was confused about. She was like, ballet dancer to police officer. How did this happen?
Okay. So we had closed the school. We were getting ready to close the school. And just we had a good run, 6 years running the school. It was fantastic. It was wonderful. We enjoyed it. The ups and downs that comes with running any business, right? But what people don't realize is running a ballet school or running an art school in general, you've got the number one predator, and that is mom. Because moms are, and I love moms. Don't get me wrong, but moms can be bears. Mm-hmm. And if little Susie Q doesn't get what she wants, well, then all of a sudden Mama Bear comes out, and it's like, well, I am so, and I use this phrase all the time when I was teaching, and my wife would say to me, "Don't say that. That's very offensive." And I'm like, and some of my teachers would say, "Christopher, don't say that's very offensive." And I would always say, well, you know what? It's not my fault that your kid has 2 left feet, and oh yeah, by the way, they're club feet. She should probably go learn how to play the piano. I'm sorry, but she's not a ballet dancer, and so finally I realized I shouldn't be saying that stuff. But after a good run and doing it, I decided that I needed something to do. So I'm like, all right, what can I do? And I met this guy who just, we hit it off. And I can't remember where we met. I think it was like at a Jim's restaurant or something we'd met, or I can't remember where it was. But anyway, we had met, we kind of saw each other. I was there just there by myself, trying to have some, I guess, me time, if you will. And he was there doing the same thing. And he happened to walk up and say, "Anybody joining you?" And I said, "Nope, just me, just working on some stuff." And he's like, "Do you mind if I join you so I don't have to wait, 30 minutes for a seat?" And I said, "Yeah, not a problem. Go for it." So we sat down and we just started talking, and we hit it off. Had a great conversation. He said, "Yeah." He said, I'm getting ready to apply to the police academy." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Good for you." I said, "That's great." He said, "You ever thought about doing something like that?" No. I said, "I'm a professional ballet dancer." And he kind of looked at me and said, "Well, that's kind of cool." I said, "Yeah, kind of cool, right?" And he said, "Yeah." "Well, will you just come and do the application process with me?" Now, granted, I'd only know this guy for minutes at this point in time. And I said, "Dude, what the heck?" I mean, it was one of those friendships that you knew you're going to be friends right when you started talking. And so I said, "Sure, when is it?" He goes, "Well, it's in about 3 weeks." And I said, "Okay, what do we have to do to get prepared for this?" Well, you got to run a mile and a half in X amount of minutes. You got to do X amount of push-ups and sit-ups and curl-ups, and you got to be able to bench press 60% of your weight and all this crazy stuff. And I said, okay, yeah, what the heck? Why not? I'll try it. So I run my mile and a half. I'm like the second guy in. I'm like, oh man, I guess I should have slowed down. Okay. So I'm starting to do my push-ups, and I do all my push-ups, and it's a minute. And they're like, I can't remember what it was, maybe 30 in a minute, and I'm at 60. And I'm like, oh, is the time up yet? And they're like, no, keep on going. I said, well, I'm getting tired. And my guy that's holding his fist down said, well, you've done 60, and it's not even a minute yet, so you're probably good. I said, okay. So I stopped. And then we got to the pull-ups, and I did, a couple pull-ups. I'm like, I don't like pull-ups. I did like 3 or 4, and I'm like, okay, this hurts. I don't think I've ever done these before. This hurts. I'm not doing this anymore. So I did those. I passed
picking
out.
a woman up.
Well, so I said, I'm done with this. And then I did the sit-ups, and that was fine. And I did the bench press or whatever. It was fine. And afterwards I said, okay, well, here's the processing. Here's your application, and it's like this thick, I'm like, what the heck is this? They're like, it's the, what do they call that?
It's the Phelps criminal background checks.
Yeah, that stupid thing. So I fill out this whole thing, and I'm still doing this going, why am I doing this? This is so stupid. I'm like, why I'm doing this for a friend. Okay. I'm doing this for a friend. So I fill it all out, turn it in, and then I go in for my first interview. And I go in there, and of course, these guys are just hard noses. They've been cops their whole life, and the guy comes in there, he sits down behind this table, and he's just giving me this look. And I said, do you have any questions for me? Are you talking to me, son? I was like, well, yes, sir. Apparently, you're the only one here. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to talk back to these folks. I didn't know this was paramilitary. I had no idea. And so then he says, I'll start asking you the questions when I'm ready to ask you the questions. I said, okay, not a problem. Not a problem whatsoever. There's a little brief pause, and he says, what'd you do before this? Are you former military? And I said, no. Proudly to say I'm a professional ballet dancer.
He probably thought you were joking.
Yeah, he said, come again one more time? And I said, I'm proud to say I'm a professional ballet dancer. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, in that case, I really don't have any other questions for you. I said, so did I pass? And he goes, I don't know how I could fail you. He goes, I don't know what to say to that. I said, okay, great. He goes, go out there. My secretary will have the application and the appointment cards for you to go and get your polygraph done. And I said, oh, okay. Well, now I was nervous because I'm like, a polygraph? Man, they're going to ask me, because of the movies, right? I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're going to hook me up to all this stuff. They're going to ask me about all I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be so scary. I go into the polygraph, and in comes this cop of all cops, right? I mean, he's just your epitome of a cop. He comes in, he's like, I'm Detective so-and-so, and I've been a police officer for 26 years. I run these polygraphs, and nobody ever passes these polygraphs on the first time. And I said, okay. He says, so just wait for it. He goes, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You see this box that I have sitting in front of you? He taped a box on the wall, just out of tape, and just taped a box, a square. And I said, okay. And he goes, I want you to look at that square the whole time, and don't you dare take your eyes off it when I'm asking you those questions. You answer those questions to the square. Do we have an understanding? Yes, sir. He says, state your full name. So I stated my name. Tell me what your previous occupation was. Still looking square at that wall. Professional ballet dancer? Good. Excuse me? You did what? Say what? And all of a sudden, he was no longer a cop of 26 or 27 years. Mr. Brute. Rah, rah, rah. It was like, he says, you can look at me now, sir. You go ahead and look at me. And I said, yes, sir. He said, ballet dancer? I said, yes. And I look at the machine that's sitting next to me.
And it's just steady.
And it's just steady. And it is just steady, going back and forth, just steady. There's no ups, there's no dips, there's no nothing. And I'm thinking, okay, well, at least he knows I'm being honest. And he says, how long did you do that for? And I said, 18 years. He said, holy cow. And the thing is still steady. He said, did you like it? I said, oh, I loved it. Did you travel? I said, I traveled all over the world. I said, I danced for 3 consecutive presidents of the United States of America. I said, it was awesome. Wow. Did you ever get into that point where, we heard about all these dancers doing drugs and all this stuff? I said, nope, never did. Still steady, right? And he says, nothing. I said, nope, nothing. Well, I'm sure you guys had like a lot of parties where you guys like did things together and all that. I said, nope, never did any of that stuff either. Still steady. He goes, are you serious? You never did? I said, nope. He said, so are you married? I said, I am. I said, I got a beautiful wife. I said, she's wonderful. She's my soulmate. We are just perfect together. And he said, oh, great. And how many companions have you had in your lifetime? I said, what do you mean by companions? He goes, like relationships, intimate relationships. And I said, her. Still steady. He goes, nothing else? And I said, no. He goes, wow. He said, I can tell you're a man of integrity. And I said, well, I'm trying to be. Still steady. He said, what bothers you the most? And I said, do you want the truth? And he said, I want the truth. And I said, okay. Well, then I guess I started to get a little nervous because a little beep went up a little bit and went back down, and it kind of got steady. And I said, cops. And he just started laughing. And he said, well, you've been telling me the truth the whole time, even with that one. This thing hasn't moved. He goes, well, I'm gonna progress you to the next step. And I said, okay, what's the next step? And he said, we're gonna get you enrolled in the academy. And I said, oh, no, I'm just here with a friend. I don't want to do this. This is not really what I'm here for. I just came because my buddy's here too. And he goes, well, you're still telling me the truth. He goes, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. You're going to do really good at this. He said, so I think you need to progress through. And I said, fine. So I went on to the next section of the interview process. Passed it, got accepted into the academy. So then I get into the academy, and here's the fun part. First day in the academy, they tell us to show up to the academy in a suit and tie. And dress shoes, we got to look really spiffy. We get out there, and we're all standing. We got our little lunches in our hands, whatever. They said, bring your lunchbox, whatever. Okay, great. So we're standing out there. I'm just standing out there, just casually standing. Drill sergeant comes up. He says, everybody, into formation. And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? Formation? What? I don't know what formation is. I guess I can. Formation, right? I'm thinking I'll just be. So I don't say anything. I don't do anything. I'm waiting for everybody else to get into formation. And so all these guys, start lining up. I'm like, okay, well, these guys are obviously former military. And to all the military people out there, thank you for your service, being Memorial Day coming up and everything. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
God bless each and every single one of them. So I'm standing there. I get all ready. I'm trying to stand like they are. I'm like, okay, I think I've got this. He goes, all right. Now I want you all to put your bags down on the floor because we've got some things we got to figure out real quick. I'm thinking, what do you got to figure out? We've gone through all these interviews. I'm still not getting paramilitary. I didn't have a clue. And he says, everybody drop. So everybody around me drops to the floor like they're all, he goes, and get in the push-up position. I stood there. And he looks at me and goes, what are you doing, cadet? And I said, I'm not getting on this dirty ground in my nice suit. And he goes, oh, you're going to get on that ground with that suit. He goes, that's what they invented dry cleaners for. And I said, are you paying the bill? He goes, oh, you got jokes, do you? I said, no, sir, I'm just curious. Get out on the ground. And he got in my face, and I'm like, oh, he ain't joking. So I got on the ground. So he did some push-ups, whatever. Fast forward about 3 weeks into the academy, and we're back in this same old formation, and we're standing there, and he comes up to me, and he's short. Now, I'm not very tall. I mean, you tower over me at 6 foot, whatever you are. Well, this guy is about 5'5", and he's a drill sergeant, but just mean and feisty. And
he's got that little man complex.
Oh, yes, he did. And I only stand 5'7.5" on a good day, right? And so I'm standing there, and he's got that that drill sergeant hat, and it's supposed to hit you right here from what I understand.
Yeah.
That's where it's supposed to hit you, right? Oh, no. That thing was
I've had a few of those in my face.
Yeah, right? So that thing's hitting me right here. And he says to me, are you looking at me, cadet? And I bent down. I said, no, sir. And I stood back up and he goes, you got jokes? And I bent down again. I said, no, sir. And I stood back up again. He goes, what do you think you're doing? I said, I'm exercising, sir. I'm doing plies. Plies? What are plies? And I said, I'm a professional ballet dancer, sir. Well, that's when all the jokes started. He goes, ah! He goes, take your position. I said, like a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what the position is. So I took my position like this and put my foot at my knee, and he goes, I don't find this, excuse me, turns around, starts laughing with the other two drill instructors, trying to gain his composure, comes back to me, looks at me and says, I do not find, this is not funny. And he starts just bursting out and starts laughing. And I said, I don't know what to tell you. He goes, well, if you think it's that funny, and he's still laughing, he said, go run 2 miles for me right now. And I said, okay. And I stood there. What are you waiting for, cadet? And I said, did you say right now? And he goes, that's what I said, right now. And I said, oh, I didn't know you wanted it like right now, or if you wanted it later. Still, I'm not getting the whole idea that I'm not supposed to talk back to these guys, because in ballet, when they ask you something, you can ask them a question. How do you want it done? What is the actual proper way that you want this done? Well, you can't do that in paramilitary or in military, as you well know.
Yep. And no, you are told what to think, how to do it, when to do it, right then and there. You don't question. You don't say anything. You spoke when spoken to.
Yeah, and I didn't understand that, and I didn't get that concept yet 3 weeks into the academy. So I went and I ran my 2 miles, and I came back, and he said, how do you feel? And I said, I feel great. You want to run 2 more? And I said, I could, if you'd like to join me. He looks at me, he kind of little smile starts coming out of the crook of his mouth right there, and he goes, all right, Fairbank. He goes, I don't know what you're playing at. And then he asked me this question. He said, do you think you have integrity? Or excuse me, do you think you're a leader? And I said, sir, I know I'm a leader. He said, do you think you have integrity? And I said, I know I have integrity. And he says, all right then, ballet boy, I think you're going to make it just fine in this profession. I think you're just fine. And stuck out his hand and shook my hand and said, you are now the team leader. I said, oh, okay, wow. So again, there was that respect thing that I gained from him and that he gained from me. Now that we were on the same page, and we got back into the classroom to do our book work, and he pulled me out. He's like, Fairbank, come on outside. I need to talk to you. I said, okay. And we got out there, and he had taken his hat off at that point in time so I could see the top of his bald, shiny head that he spray painted on with the, to make his hair look like.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember those.
Right? Yeah, right. And so I'm looking at him, and he said, I want to tell you something. He goes, the reason I made you the team lead is because I know you have leadership, and I know you have integrity. He said, but I'd like to ask you one thing. And I said, what is that? And he said, can you just try and go with the flow here? He said, a lot of these guys are former military. They know how this goes. I understand you don't understand how this goes because you're a ballet dancer. And by the way, your new nickname is Ballet Boy for the rest of this academy. I don't care what you say. And I said, yes, sir, not a problem. I can be Ballet Boy. That doesn't bother me. He said, just yes, sir, and be polite. And when I ask you to do things, just do them. And I said, not a problem, sir. I said, I've got no problem doing that whatsoever. He goes, all right, Ballet Boy, if you can do that, then I think we'll be good. And he said, and remember, continue to be a good leader and continue to have integrity. I said, okay. And he said, because in this field, your integrity is going to be called on the carpet every single day that you're on the job.
Yes, it is.
And because it is. And I said, okay. I said, I can do that. I can do that. And he said to me, which I thought was very interesting, he said, and don't do it for me, but do it for you. And I said, yes, sir. And I kind of stopped, and he said, do you have something else to add to that? And I said, yes, sir, I do. Do I have permission to speak, sir? And he said, you're getting it. You're getting it. You're getting it, Ballet Boy. And I said, yes, sir. He said, you have permission to speak. And I said, okay, sir, I wasn't ever going to do it for you or for anybody else in my class. I said, all 32 other cadets, I'm not doing it for them. I'm not having integrity and being a leader for them. I'm having integrity and being a leader for myself and for my family, my loved ones that are still at home. That's what I'm doing it for. And he said, Ballet Boy, you and I have got an understanding. Now get the other 32 cadets in there to do the same thing. I said, fine. The academy went, and of course, all the way through it, I was called Ballet Boy. That was fine. I started running the PT every morning. I would run PT. So I gave a ballet class to a 32 officers, former military guys, giving them ballet class every single morning for 3.5 months of the academy, and they loved it. It was great. They were in shape. They had a good time. We enjoyed ourselves. We were fit. And then we go to graduation, and the sheriff gets up, and she says, we've got one more award. We'd all graduated. We're all excited, and she gets up, and she says, we've got one more thing we got to do. We have one more award, and it's the Peer Professionalism and Integrity and Leadership Award. And this goes to Officer Fairbank, who has shown nothing but integrity, nothing but leadership, and above all, has just been somebody there and a confidant for his whole class. When somebody was running behind and couldn't keep up in the 2-mile runs, Christopher would go and finish his stuff. He would run all the way back, and he would run back with them and encourage them and coach them all the way through. She goes, that is leadership, and that is integrity. He never left anyone behind. And so because of that, we want to give him the Peer Professional Award and graduate him with honors. And I thought, wow, ballet dancer made it through the police academy. And she said, and I wasn't going to say this, but the drill sergeants over here all said they had a nickname for him. Officer Fairbank, would you like to tell us what your nickname is? And I said, absolutely. I am proud to say I am Ballet Boy. And of course, the whole group just started laughing. The parents out there, wives, husbands, whatever, everyone's just laughing. And I carried that name all the way through the police force. When I got out of the street, they would call my call sign. My call sign was 1878, and they'd always tag it on 1878 BB, which meant Ballet Boy. And I was like, 1878, I'm here. What's going on? They'd give me the call, and then I would always say BB on the way or something like that, right? And so it kind of stuck, and I liked it. But my integrity was absolutely correct. That drill sergeant was absolutely correct. My integrity was called into check every single day. Every time I stepped out of that car, it was called into check. Yeah. Every time I stepped out of the car to go and talk to somebody, my morality was called into check. I mean, there's nothing like being and I'll be honest, I am flamboyant, but I think that was my ballet in me, right? But people tried, I shouldn't say they did, but they tried to take advantage of that. Oh, well, here comes this sissy cop up here, because I can just tell by the way he walks. Look at him all turned out walking like a duck up to my car. Well, what they didn't realize is that you get out and run, I'm going to catch you every single time. You go ahead and fight with me, that's fine. Well, I can pretzel and twist around you more times than not, and you're not going to know what happened to you, because when we're done and you're in handcuffs, you're going to go, how did that happen? I have no idea.
So when you're going to go, you were just taken down by a professional ballet.
And let me tell you, there was one time this guy was high on something. I don't know what it was. And it was rough. I mean, it was rough. 3 or 4 guys, and they were just trying to get him taken out and just doing all this stuff. And obviously I was in the mix too, and I was trying to get him too. And finally we get the guy in handcuffs, and somebody says, BB, grab the shackles so we can shackle him. I'm like, all right. Well, then of course he hears that and he starts kicking, right? I mean, obviously, who wants to be in shackles? So he starts kicking, and finally I get his legs tied down, and I shouldn't say tied down, but get him on the ground, right? And put in those shackles. And I looked up, and right then my sergeant goes, how's it feel to be put in handcuffs and shackles by a ballet dancer? And the guy was like, are my handcuffs pink?
That kind of reminds me of that video that was running around on YouTube with the guy that was running from the cops. And they finally got him to stop, and they were telling him, get down on the ground. And the whole time they're getting him on the ground, he's going, oh, like reaching in his pockets. He's like, oh, hey, watch your hands there, Mr. Officer Man, in my pockets. And then he turned around and looked at him and said, by the way, my safe word is pineapple. I'm going to have to send you a link to that video. It is hilarious. It goes on for like 5 minutes. This cop can barely keep a straight face the whole time he's doing this.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I mean, you know, those things are funny because it's real life, you know what I mean? And these guys are being serious, you know what I mean? They're real. I mean, I had another guy where I I got up there and he was a little tipsy. Well, okay, let's not say a little. He was really tipsy. I mean, he couldn't even stand up to save his life. And so I got up there and he says to me, "Are you going to give me one of them field sobriety thingamajiggers?" And I said, "I'm going to give you one of those field sobriety thingamajiggers." He says, "What I got to do? I got to dance?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact," I said, as a retired professional ballet dancer myself, I could teach you a couple moves." And he goes, "Are you kidding me? You were a ballet dancer?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "And now you da popo." That's what he said. "Now you da popo?" And I said, "Now I da popo." He said, "Oh man." He goes, "Well," and this is what got me. He goes, "I couldn't do any of those ballet moves even if I wasn't drunk." I said, "All right, sir, turn around and put your hands behind your back."
Oh man.
So that's how that went. But it was fun because I would tell everybody, and it didn't bother me. I mean, I got a promotion. I became a public information officer. And so I was speaking to the public. I was on the TV doing things like that. And it was great because a lot of people would say, "Well, how did you move up so quick?" I'm like, "Move up so quick? Well, you already got a promotion. It's only been a year and a half." I'm like, my comment to everybody was, "Well, it helps to be a professional ballet dancer, a former professional ballet dancer, because there was a lot of discipline in that. And it's different discipline than you military guys know. It's completely different, but at the same time, it's exactly the same. Because in the military, you have to do things just so. In the police academy, we had to do things just so. Well, guess what? When I was on stage with 32, 42, 82 other dancers, everything had to be just so. We all had to be in line."
Yeah. One small mistake, somebody in the audience will notice it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Is one minor mistake, someone in the audience is going to know it because 81 dancers are on the same foot and that one dancer's off.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
And I can relate to this because my older sons, actually all my kids, have been in marching band.
Oh, well, then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, my older sons, they've all been to state competitions. I've won at state. They all got their Letterman jackets for going. And like I said, when you're sitting up 50 to 60 feet above the band so you can see down on them while they're doing their final performance at a state UIL competition, one small misstep sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that really was what I would tell people is it's the same. If you look at it, it's the same. It's exactly the same. We're just on the stage doing something, or color guard, they're just on the field doing something. Military, they're out in the field as well doing something, but there's a regimen to it. And we have to make sure that it's all the same. I said, so with that, I have put myself in the position that I've put myself in, to be seen and to be noticed, but in a good way. I wanted them to see me as somebody that had standards, somebody that had morals, somebody that had integrity, so that when they said, "Hey, look, we want to promote somebody," I would be the first one that they looked at. Instead of going, "Oh, well, you know what? He could do it, but I'm just not so sure about," whatever the case may be. I never wanted anything to be called into check or called into question. And it worked out for me. And so when I got to that point, it worked out very well. And people, of course, like anything, people are going to be upset. "Oh, well, I've been here for 20 years. Well, you're still a patrol officer.
I've gotten the same thing. Men that I've worked with that have been in the profession that were there 20 years before me, I come in and it's immediately going through the ranks. And they're like, "I've been here 15 years already. Why haven't I gotten?" And it's like, what have you done?
Exactly. What have you done? What have you done to progress yourself and to stand out?
Yeah.
And
they used to, it was funny because I used to get ridiculed about this because somebody would ask me something. "Well, what do you do in the evenings when you're at home?" I said, "Currently right now I'm in the process of writing a book." Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then a month and a half later, "How's that book going?" I said, "Well, the first one's already published. I'm on number 2 right now." And they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'm working on the second one right now." I said, "It's probably going to be a 6-book series." And they were like, "Okay." And it ended up being a 6-book series, completed it. And then it was like, so they never started questioning me about it. And then it was like one day they saw me carrying in a bunch of books. "What are you doing now?" "I'm going back to school again." you're in your 40s. And I said, so?
So?
And they were like, well, what are you studying? I said, well, I've always been interested in environmental sciences, so I'm taking some environmental sciences courses. I said, if I complete this will be a bachelor's degree in environmental science. Oh, but don't you already have it? Yeah, mechanical applications. I've already got one in that already. But I want to learn. And by my learning, I've enriched my life, but I'm also bringing benefit to everything else that I do.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, we can never stop learning. Why would we want to stop learning?
The day I stop learning is the day that they decide to throw the dirt over my hole.
Thank you. I agree with
Actually,
that.
they're not even going to throw dirt over my hole. I've already decided I'm not going in a hole. I'm going into a bio urn.
Hey, cool.
It's one of those bio urns. They've actually got a tree planted in it.
Uh-huh. That's awesome. See, I like that. But the point is though, with just like you said, and I'm saying too, is why stop? What is the point? And so if we continue to progress the way that we're progressing and doing the things that make us stand out in the long run, and this is what I would tell the guys all the time and the girls all the time. I'd say, look, guys, I'm standing out to make this department better. I want it to be better. I want this department to live up to its motto of being the best department in the nation. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do it one man at a time, one woman at a time. And if I'm the one that has to start it, then I'm going to be the one that started it. But you know what? The chief has already started it. The sheriff of the county has already started it. Some of our sergeants and lieutenants and deputy chiefs and captains, they've already started it. So who are we not to follow suit and follow their example? Well, I don't think they're a good leader. Well, they don't have to be a good leader, but you know what they've done? They have paved the way for us to step on that path to continue to help pave that way to being the best in the nation. And who am I to stand in the way of that?
What I usually tell people, because I've heard the same thing about leadership. Well, I'm not going to do it because they're not a good leader. What's stopping you, though, from being an excellent leader?
Right. What is stopping you?
What is stopping you from being the excellent leader? You don't have to follow him because you don't think he's an excellent leader. But by you leading, there are people that are going to see you and follow through.
Right.
And it's, I hate to see when people become stagnant. And that's, and it's a sad fact. We deal with that on an everyday basis. I know men that are so stagnant in their lives. They go to work, they get up, go to work, come home, plop down on the couch, pop a beer, TV, go to bed, repeat, rinse and repeat. They never try something new. And I get people all the time ask me, how do you do all this? I just do it. Well, how do you have time for everything? Okay, great. I get up in the morning. I spend time with my kids. I get them ready. I get them off to school. Boom, I go to work. Actually, I record a show, then go to work.
Yeah.
Okay, come home. Do whatever it is I need to do. My wife's in the medical field, so no telling what hour she's going to come in. It's usually later in the afternoon. So I'm here with the kids. I cook dinner, get everything done. Kids go to bed. Wife goes and does her thing. I come in here and record a show or write or do something. But it's learning to allocate your time correctly. But I'm not stagnant.
Right.
I grew up my entire life watching the stepdads and the uncles come home, plop down, and that was it.
Right.
And I refuse to have that in my life. I want to be doing something. I want to be learning. I want to be setting an example for my children.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing there is, what are one's priorities? And that's where it lays right there. And it, people can ask all the time, just like they ask you, well, how do you do it? Well, I don't know exactly how I do it. I can tell you what I do, but I can't tell you how I do it, because I do it. And the reason I do it is because I am putting my priorities correctly in the right way that they need to be. Now, how am I doing that? I could give you a list of what I'm doing, and I can show you how I'm doing it and all that stuff, but it's going to be pretty hard for me to tell you how to do it, because for you, it's going to be different than it is for me.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing right there. We're all different. What are your priorities? Well, my priorities are not going out there and hanging with the guys every weekend and drinking. That's not my priority. My priority is to spend as much time with my kids and my wife as I possibly can, because someday my kids are going to be off at college and they're going to be grown and they're going to have kids, and then it's me and mama here, and that's great because I love her to death. But where were my priorities? Why didn't I not spend more time with them? Because there's going to be a day where I'm probably going to say, like every mom and dad says, I wish I would have spent more time with my children. I don't ever want to be able to say that. I never want to have to say that. And so at this point in time, I'm not having to say that, because when they say, hey, look, can we go and do this? Well, we don't have time to go to the pool today, but tomorrow we'll make time to do it. Well, can we watch a movie instead? Yep, let's go watch a movie instead. It's all about the priorities. And if you prioritize your priorities, if that's something, then that's what you get. And you're going to see great blessings come from that.
Yeah, you prioritize your family. Family always comes first. My kids, and I've told this to my employers throughout the years, my wife and my kids are always going to come before this job.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. My life is not motivated by money. Never has been. I grew up poor. Money isn't something I've ever wanted to chase. Just so happens money comes to me with things that I do.
Right. And that's okay.
That's okay. But money has never been my driving motivation and my driving force.
Right.
My driving force has always been my wife and my kids. And I always put my wife first. And my kids ask me, why? Well, how come you always have to do it with mom and this? I said, I'm going to tell you simply why. I knew her before I knew you.
Thank you.
I knew her before I knew you. She is my wife. I married her because I loved you. I loved her. You guys came along. I love you dearly. But if I spend all my time with you and neglect her, we're going to become strangers. And I know so many families that have been like that. They put everything into their children. And when the children finally left the nest, it was two strangers living in a home together. They didn't know each other.
Right. Right. I tell my kids, I basically tell my kids the same thing all the time. I say, you know what? She was my wife before she was your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are no longer at home, she is still your mother, yes, but she is still my wife, and she was my wife first. And so because of that, she will always have my first attention and my utmost attention and respect, because she is my wife, and she is the mother of my children, which is you guys. And when one of them starts to talk back to her, I always say, they always just roll their eyes like, oh, here it goes again. And I'm like, I think, well, maybe one of these days you'll get it, because this phrase is never going to change. And I always say the same thing. Do you ever hear me yell at your mother? No, Dad. Do you ever hear me raise my voice at your mother? No, Dad. Do you ever hear me arguing with your mother? No, Dad. I know what's next if I ever raise my hand to your mother. No, Dad. And I said, well, exactly. Then what gives you the right to raise your hand to her?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're raising your hand,
like that.
you're raising her voice to my wife, not to your mother, to my wife.
I've told my kids before, I said, go ahead, yell at your mother like that, because you're not going to have to worry about her, because I'm going to bring the smack down.
Thank you. Thank you. I have tried to tell them, you can disrespect her, but mind you, and learn this right now, that will only happen once in your life, that you disrespect her.
Yep. And I had an older gentleman that I worked with, because my wife and I actually spent some time, and we went to work. We left our careers, everything, and we went to work at a children's home here in Texas. And
cool.
we spent 3 years working there. We actually lived on the facility, had 15 kids in our home.
Wow.
And so we did that for 3 years. And one of the gentlemen that I worked with there, he passed away while we were working there, but he was so cool. He could just come up with these little sayings. And he told one day one of the kids was disrespecting his wife. And he treated all the kids like they were his kids. And he told them flat out, he said, you are not going to disrespect my wife, your mama, or whatever. He said, and if I catch you doing it again, I'm going to put my foot so far up your ass the water on my knees going to quench your thirst. And I was like,
ouch.
Where did you get that from? And then he was like, oh, Major Payne, you got to watch that movie.
Wow.
He would just pop one off like that. And you're like, I got to leave the room because I'm fixing to start laughing because you're in the middle of disciplining.
Right. You're trying to be serious. I'm not right now. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I've always told my kids, though. Don't disrespect your mother. You disrespect your mother, you're disrespecting me as well. And you're going to have me to answer to, because I don't treat your mother like that. We have never, and I can honestly say, my wife and I've had disagreements. We've never raised our voice to each other. We've never hit each other. I grew up in an abusive type environment as a child, psychologically, physically, everything. And I absolutely refuse to raise my children in that environment. I knew that before I ever got married. No.
Right.
Cycle stops here.
Yeah.
And I told my wife that too when we got married. I said, cycle stops with that. I said, this is my family. Okay. I don't have anything to do with them anymore. But that's the way it was with them. And yeah, and I'm not doing that with my kids. And my kids will not do that to me.
Right. Amen to that.
And that's just parenting 101.
Absolutely.
Put your foot down, stick to it.
Yeah, that's right. Put your foot down and stick to it no matter what.
Yep. So we've gone through ballet now, law enforcement, and it seems that all of these have something in common. Discipline.
Yes. Learning
respect, mutual respect, vice versa, both ways. And now you've moved into, you've branched and you're using what you've learned throughout your life. And I want to say this. One of the key things that stuck out to me was, yes, you learned a lot from ballet, discipline. You learned a lot from the police academy, everything. But the one thing that did stick out to me was your father.
Yes.
At the very beginning, your father was the one who started you on this road to wisdom.
Yes, he sure did. And he's a wonderful man. He's quirky, but aren't all old guys quirky at this point in life, right?
Hey,
I mean, it's awesome.
Guy wearing a Star Wars shirt.
I mean, hey, right? Why not? So, that is the one thing that I have to say is that he has always kept me grounded, if you will, in the right points of time. But he has always pushed me when I felt like, you know what, I think I might be done. I think I might be tired of this. He has always said, well, why? Is there anything more that you can give? Well, yeah, I think there is. Okay, then why are you done? And so that was the nice thing, is that it was always, and still to this day, there's always that voice in my head from my father of saying, are you sure you've given everything you can give? Because if you've given everything you can give in that aspect of your life right there, then it's time to move on. But if you ever second guess yourself that, oh, well, there might be something, well, then you're not done that, and you need to keep on going until that has been accomplished. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, that's great. And so that's what I've tried to push to my children as well, is if there's ever any inkling that there might be something more with the thing that you're working at or you're working on, then you're not done. Yeah. And why stop? Because you never want to have to go back later on and say, oh, you know what? I should have done that at that point in time. No, do it, because you only live once.
Yeah. It's if not who, then you, if not you, then who?
Then who?
And if not now, then when?
Then when? Yes. And that has always been my mantra, is I have to keep on going. So when it gets to the point, and when it got to the point of, well, I was in the police force and I was doing all this stuff, and I was going out and I was speaking to town hall meetings, and I'm speaking to youth, and I'm doing all these things and helping these students see their potential. And then something hit me pretty strongly, is I'm doing this as a person and somebody that cares, But I think the only thing they're seeing is, and the only reason they're listening is because I've got this uniform on and I'm carrying a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked, just nonchalantly, I went and I asked the chief if I could do a presentation to a group of students at one of the colleges and not in uniform. I said, if I need to wear a gun and a badge, I said, I'll wear a gun and a badge, and I've got no problem with that. But I'd like to try it and see what the reaction is and see what the difference is. Well, the reaction was completely stunning and completely something that I'd never expected. I got up there and I spoke and I talked to them and I told them my story. I told them about ballet to bullets, like how I got into this and where I came from. And I got into the point where, yeah, in high school, I was bullied because I was a ballet dancer. I was called every name in the book because I was a ballet dancer. I had a principal that said to me, you're never going to make anything out of yourself because you just want to be the center of attention. You're kind of a class clown, so on and so forth. And I said, you know what? Some of you students in here today are thinking the exact same thing because you've been told the exact same thing. But I'm here to tell you today from Christopher, not Officer Fairbank, but from Christopher, that you can become something and you can be something. And the reason that you can become something and the reason you can be something and be somebody is because you are who you are. And you are a leader and you have integrity and you will truly and surely be the change that you want to see in this world. And you will make it happen. That first conference or whatever you want to call it, the first speech in front of those kids, not in that uniform.
You changed the whole dynamic of it.
I changed the whole dynamic of it. And these kids came up to me afterwards. And I've got these kids that are second to last chance kids, right? Coming up with tears in their eyes and thank you so much. That meant so much. I need to change my life. I need to do something better. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And I asked one of these kids, what made the difference? Because he said to me, I listened to one of your town hall meetings and one of these things that you came and talked to us in our subdivision a couple weeks ago. He said, you kind of gave the same speech and the same lecture, if you will, and made the same points, but it was so much different today. And I said, what made it different? I said, your mindset changed, didn't it? And he said, no, I don't think my mindset changed. And I said, then what changed? I said, tell me what changed. I knew what changed. It was the uniform. They were not as, what's the word? They weren't.
The uniform, in a way, demands respect.
Yes.
That may or may not be deserve.
Right.
Especially in our society now, with the way people feel with police officers. They see you as a guy with a gun and a badge standing up there. Of course he's going to be trying to tell us motivational crap.
Of course, exactly. And that was the point. And he said intimidating. He said it was not as intimidating with you standing up there in a shirt and tie as it was when you in that uniform. And he said, and it also made the human side of you. Mm-hmm. He goes, I saw the human side of you. And that's what hit me the hardest and hit me the most is that here's somebody that actually cares about us. And I thought this was interesting because this was my thought, is he said, you cared enough about us to come and talk to us at this school today about the same things that you're talking to the community about, but you cared enough about us to come and talk to us as Christopher and not as Officer Fairbank.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, you're right. I'm glad that you saw that. But with him saying it to me, it brought it up to my forefront of saying, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I wanted somebody to tell me that so I would know that, of course, we need self-assurance too, right? Mm-hmm. But it was reassuring to me to know that what I was planning on doing actually hit home. And so I did several more like that, and I kept on doing those things. And then finally, I got to the point where I said to my wife one night, I said, I've been speaking for years, and I have been speaking for years, and I've been coaching for years, and I've been doing that for years. I said, on the side, I said, but I really think that I can make a bigger impact on the youth of today and business leaders today than I'm going to be as a police officer. I said, I think I can make a bigger impact if I'm not a police officer doing this. And then I heard that voice from my father. Have you done everything you can do? Have you given all you can to that department?
Mm-hmm.
And I was honestly able to say, yes, I have. And so I went in and I said, with all due respect, I'm going to take an early retirement. With all due respect, I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, and that you've done with me. But at this time, my story is changing, and I need to go where the story is leading me and taking me. And I'm going to go speak all the time now, and that's what I'm going to do from here on out, is just speak to youth and to businesses and teach them these things that I have learned through my life, teach them how to become better businesses, and teach them how to become better at what they do, and let these kids know and these students know they can become something.
Absolutely.
And the chief was fantastic. He said, Christopher, I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anybody that can do that, it is you. And then he said, which I thought was fantastic, he said, and if you ever want to come back into this field, you've always got a job here, because I will hire you back. And that right there was the crowning glory of knowing that I made a difference there as well in the police world that was seen, and it was shown, and now it's missed. I get phone calls and text messages all the time from guys that I worked with, and they say to me all the time, oh, so-and-so was asking about you. So-and-so said, what happened to that ballet dancing cop that we used to have? Man, he was so much fun. His speeches, his presentations were phenomenal. He always touched us, and where's he at now? And people are like, we don't know what to tell him. And I said, tell him the truth. Tell him I've gone off to speak and to help people. Tell him the truth. I said, because the truth is going to make you look better, instead of saying, I don't know, because you do know. And why are we going to be false? And why are we going to say to people, I have no idea? Why would you do that? There's no need. There's no point. No point. So that then brings us into the motivational speaking of how I got into it. Is just, I've been doing it for a while, and I thought, this is something I want to do. I love doing it. I love speaking to people. Mm-hmm. But what is my message that I'm going to bring? What can I bring to them? And there it is. I bring to them the knowledge and the understanding. To the youth groups, I bring to them that they are leaders, that they have integrity, and that they will indeed be the change that they want to see in the world. And then for the businesses, for the business people, I have this thing that I call reshape the box. And my reshape the box is very simple. It's just threefold. And it's the first and foremost, it's how to develop employees. How many times have we sat in these meetings over and over again, and meetings I would sit in with police officers, and we are not developing anybody. We're not developing. And we're as the leaders, we're just saying, well, go ahead and do this. Well, I'd like to know how I'm supposed to do this. Don't question me. No, that's not a question. What I want you to do is I want you to teach me. I want you to develop me so that I can become the best employee that you need, so that this business will continue to grow.
Yep.
And that I can make you better and make you look better as a company and as the head of this company.
Yeah.
And then my second part of it,
company better, you reap the benefits from that.
Absolutely. And that's what they need to understand, is they will reap the benefits from that. And then my second part of it is, how do we retain those employees? Well, it goes back to the first thing. How are we going to retain these employees? Well, how are you going to develop these employees? Because once you develop these employees, you will then be able to not only develop them, but as you have developed them, they will stay, because they want to stay, because they know that there's room for growth there, and that the business leader, if you will, the manager, whoever it may be, whatever the case may be, mm-hmm. sees the potential in you or in that person, because they've put the time and effort into trying to develop them.
Too many companies nowadays are chasing the bottom dollar and neglecting what is actually bringing their company to fruition, which is actually, and I had this conversation with Madeline the other night. She's part of the group too with you guys. And she said that is the one thing that they've always had, is it doesn't matter which employee it is. If they're the person, if you're running a grocery store, if they're the person bagging the groceries, do you realize that person is the first person your customers see every day.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you want to put everything you possibly can into making that person excel, want to be there, want to provide good service and everything? And you've got some guy that's sitting in an office across town who all he cares about are the pennies that are being counted and the books, make sure the books are balanced. They don't want to put any effort into their employees. And I'm glad you're actually mentioning that, because that is something I would love to start seeing corporations do, because we don't do that anymore in today's society. In the 1950s, 1960s, companies knew that their employees were what were going to build them. So, hey, let's get them the training they need. Let's send them to the school they want. We do that. They're going to stay with us because we helped them.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's, I can hire 5 more guys like you later.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, is that you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head of, they're always looking at that bottom dollar. Oh my goodness, this is going to cost this much. You know what? I understand and I get it. It's going to cost you $400 or $500 or $1,000, $2,000, whatever the case may be, to send this one employee to that conference. But remember, you've spent that money on that employee to develop them and send them there. You have not only helped develop them, but now you've also helped retain them as an employee, because, oh, you know what? My company believes in me to send me to this convention or this conference where I'm going to learn something that I can now bring it back to help develop this and to make this better. Now, on the flip side of that, so our managers and our owners and our CEOs and all those guys, instead of looking at that bottom line is, okay, yeah, you just spent $2,000, but how much money did you actually gain?
Yeah.
You have gained 3, 4, 5, 6, 100 times as much because of that one employee that went and did that one conference and went and learned all the stuff that is now coming back and is able to share that with other people and develop others.
Also, you can look at the other flip side of that. How much money have they saved? Because
yes,
you've got to train new employees if your employees are leaving.
Yes,
that's profit loss, because you're having to spend retraining a new employee every other month to do the same job that if you'd have treated the first one right, got them the proper training, helped them out, get to know the person, find out what's going on in their lives, make the job worth their while, and get them what they need to help your company grow, and then they'll stay with you. But they don't. They're like, hey, yeah, go ahead. You don't like the job, leave. I can get 5 more people like you. But they're not taking into consideration, yeah, you hire another guy to replace that guy. Now you got to train them.
Yep,
that's time lost.
And that's time lost, and that's money lost too.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're paying that guy to go to training that you've already done.
Yes, exactly. You've already done it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times over.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing this? What is the point? And that's something that I try to help them understand too. And then the last one that I do is how to innovate to stay relevant. And you brought that up earlier. How do we innovate to stay relevant within our employees? Well, it goes down to the bottom line is we're sending them off to training. We're letting them see this stuff. We're letting them learn and gain knowledge, because that is innovation at its best. Because
and we have to adapt to the technology.
Right, exactly. They go off, they learn it, they bring it back. Now we're adapting all of this stuff into what we're doing. We're implementing it. And guess what? We've done all 3 of those first 2 things. We've nailed completely down. We have not only developed our employee, we have now retained them, and now we have we've got innovation that is relevant to everything that is going on in our situation, in our life, and in our business. And so with that's why I call it reshape the box, because a lot of these people think, oh, well, this is how it's going to be. This is how I've done it for X amount of years, and it's worked so far. Well, I'm glad it's worked so far, but guess what? It could work even better, and it's not going to last.
Yeah, and if we don't start fixing this now, it's not going to work forever.
Exactly. It's not going to work forever.
Sadly, the world's going to move on.
Right, and if you're still stuck in that same place, the world is not stopping for anybody, and it's not waiting on anybody. I'm sorry, it's still going. And so with that big idea and that big thought, that I had. That's what I've been training on. That's what I've been coaching people on. And they're, and it's helping. It's really helping. And they're seeing the differences in these companies, and they're seeing
Nice.
the difference that it's making for them. And so out of a whim, I was sitting on the couch one night and I said, "Hey babe, we should do a conference." She goes, "What do you mean a conference?" I said, "I should do a conference and get a whole bunch of people together in the same room and talk about all this stuff." I said, "We can talk about these 3 topics. We can bring in some HR people if we need to talk about some stuff too." I said, "I think we should just do it." And she said, "Well, you followed everything else that you've wanted to do and it's always become successful. So why not just do it?" So I came up with this. I came up and I created a conference that's called the Dare to Be Different Business Leadership Conference. And so I started that and I thought, this is really cool. So I started putting my ideas down on paper and I thought, I wonder if I could actually do this. And then I said, yeah, I can do this. So I created the Dare to Be Different Business Leadership Conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's on October 25th this year, and we're gonna have a blast. But our main purpose of it and the main objective of it are those 3 things right there, those 3 points. How to develop employees, how to retain our employees, and how to innovate to stay relevant. And all those things is exactly what we need to do as businesses. And really, you can take it as well. I talked to somebody the other day. I said, you don't just have to use that for business. You can use that in your family life too,
Mm-hmm.
because it actually works in your family. I said, how am I developing my children? Well, we have 7-month-old twins and they are fantastic and they're beautiful and they're wonderful little girls, right? What am I doing right now? They're starting to pull up on things. Well, they fall down. How do I develop them? I let them know that it's okay that you fell down, because that's learning. You have to fall down a couple times, but you got to get back up. So we pick them back up or help them back up.
Yes.
How do I retain them, right? That's kind of funny. How do I retain my children? Well, you retain them through love and through encouragement. And how do we help them innovate and become relevant in this day and age? Well, we give them the tools to become relevant. We give them the tools to be innovative and to not, and as I heard the other day, which was fantastic, I love this, we do not become snowplow parents. We cannot be snowplow parents and move everything out of their way so they have this nice cushy path, and if they fall down, they fall in a bed of pillows or in feathers. No, we can't do that. And it's the same thing in business. You can't do that.
Nope.
You have to allow these people to fall. You have to allow them to fail, because with failure comes success. And if we don't have failure, we can't have success.
And we have to teach people how to think, not
Absolutely.
what to think.
Absolutely. Because right now, and I'm sure you've seen this with everybody that you've talked to, and even probably in your own job, is how many times are we told how to think, but we're not taught how to think?
Mm-hmm.
And that's detrimental. That's very detrimental. You will think like this. No. This is my thought and this is my idea. Now, what is your thought and what is your idea?
Yeah.
Well, I've never been asked.
I would love to see schools start teaching critical thinking again.
Oh, if they would only.
They don't teach it anymore in high school. You have to get to a university level before you start learning critical thinking. And I think that's why we have the problems we're having right now with all this fake news and crap like that going on in society, is because people don't know how to critically think and analyze things, look at evidence, look at facts, realize that you might be coming at a certain situation with a bias that may be related to some sort of a dogma that you've been taught throughout your life, or preconceived not of something. I mean, we need to learn to critical think, which that is something I have emphasized with my children throughout their entire lives. And I think it's important for employers to do the same thing. Teach people to think, not what to think. Okay, you have a problem. Let's break this down and analyze it. Why do we have this problem? What can we do to prevent this problem? And just walk through the steps.
Yeah.
And eventually you get to your answer.
Right. And the nice thing is not only eventually do you get to your answer, but you get to the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer that actually helps us succeed. And I think if more people would see that and realize that, I, again, don't think we would have these issues and these problems that we have these days.
No. They need to quit treating businesses like Common Core math.
Thank you. No, I completely agree.
Have you looked at the Common Core?
Yeah, I have.
I've gone to school administrative meetings and argued it. I watched a woman give a demonstration. She gave all the people in the school administration building that for that meeting that they had a piece of paper and a pencil. And she goes, "I'm going to write a number on this whiteboard." She did the little math equation. She goes, "Now using Common Core, which all of you know, figure this out." So she stood there, and they were like, "Oh, well, this." She goes, "Okay, well, since you obviously aren't familiar with how they're teaching our children Common Core, let me show you how we do it." "Well, we got to do this. First, we got to draw some little boxes and do this and this and this." And she went through, and it took her 22 minutes to solve a problem using Common Core. It was a 3-digit number multiplied by a 2-digit number. Okay, and she said, "This is your Common Core." She goes, "Now I'm going to write a totally different number over here. A 3-digit number multiplied by a 2-digit number." That took me about 11 seconds. Why are we teaching our children this crap?
Yeah.
Yeah. My kids came home because my oldest son, we homeschooled him for a while. We lived up in East Texas. Horrible schools up there. You want to talk about some backwoods up there? It was backwoods. We were like, nope. But yeah, we're going to homeschool for a while. So when we finally got him into school, he was actually ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And they started that Common Core crap, and he was like, why are we doing it this way? Well, this is how you do the problem. He goes, no. This is how you do. There's the answer.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's. And he was like, what? And he argued with them, and finally, Mom had to get involved, and she went up there. She goes, "What difference does it make which method he uses? He's getting the right answer.
Yes.
Using a simpler method." And
Yes.
she goes, "And I'm going to tell you right now, if he tried to take this Common Core math to an accounting job, he would be fired the first day."
Of course. They don't want you to sit there and take 22 minutes on one problem. Mm-hmm. It's got to be done.
Right.
Here it is. Here's the answer. When I go to the doctor and I'm just there for a physical, and they come in and the nurse comes in and she says, "Okay, we're going to take your vital signs," and she checks my blood pressure for 22 minutes, I think I'm going to get up and walk out and say, when I have more time, I'll come back and I'll have the doctor come in for his 5-minute checkup that he's going to talk to me about. When he's free, I'll come back because you just spent 22 minutes checking my blood pressure. No, really? No, they go in there, they check your blood pressure, they check your temperature, and everything's done within 5 minutes. The doctor comes in and you're in and out of there. Once you actually get seen, you're in and out of there very quickly because there's a methodology to it. Now, granted, we are waiting there for about an hour and a half before we get in there for that 15-minute appointment, right? But the point is that they're not sitting there taking so much time. Common Core to check your blood pressure. Are you kidding me? Do that and see what happens. You're going to lose your business.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm teaching, and that's what I'm training, and that's what I bring to the forefront.
Oh man, this has been awesome. I'm glad to hear that we've already gone 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, I'm looking down at the meter right now, 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Wow. It was like talking to an old friend. It was awesome.
That's why I do this show. You made a key point there, and it relates to the show. When you were talking to those students in your suit, they said they got to see the human side of you. And that's what this show is about. I mean, I want this to be a resource for people that come on my show to they can show it to other people and go, "Hey, look, here's my story. Just check it out."
Yeah. Yeah. And here it is. And that's great. And when you and I talked on the phone, I thought, this is awesome. I like that idea that it's show me who you are. What makes you tick, right? What is it about you?
Don't sell me a product.
Right. Why?
Show me who you are, because you show me who you are, the integrity, the honesty, everything behind it, you got your product there.
I was just about to say, that my product, my wife always says to me, honey, your product is you. She said, because no matter who you talk to, you're always the same. She goes, you don't change for your audience. You never have, and you never will. And I thought,
But I do.
well, who does? But then you see it every day. People change for their audience. They change for who they talk to. All of a sudden they become different. And I'm like, oh no. Like I said in the beginning, I am who I am. You like me, you take me, or you leave me. You like me for who I am, or you don't. And well, so be it.
Well, it's like you see here, I cut up a joke with you. We'll talk. We'll do the interview. I mean, most people think, well, that's not very professional. I'm drinking, ladies and gentlemen, who are watching this. If you're not watching it, catching on audio, I am holding up a wine glass. I've got some strawberry wine from Texas. So yes, this is me. This is me in my natural environment. And when I was actually on the speaking circuit, because I traveled all over the place too. I spoke at conferences. I talked about numismatics and different types of things, debt relief, and I've been to Oregon. I think the largest audience I spoke for had like 1,900 people or something like that. Sure. It was a big crowd. But I got up on stage and yeah, they were and I remember the first time I was up on stage, I had somebody coaching me. Well, you can't do all that. You got to get up there and hell no. I was the one getting down and walking around in the crowd, asking people questions.
That's what I do.
And it's like, I want to know what you think about this, sir. I mean, I'm up here. I've already got my speech in my head. Tell me what you think. And they go, well, okay, great. Let's touch on that. And I'll continue walking around, got my mic in my hand and stuff.
Right.
And I drove the cameraman nuts.
Oh yeah. You know, it's funny. So now when I go up to speak someplace, I tell the camera people just straight up. I said, I'm gonna let you know, I'm not gonna be like that last speaker that's gonna stay on that stage up there. And heck, if you think I'm gonna stand behind that podium, because that is not happening. I said, you're gonna see me jump off the stage. You're gonna see me come down the stairs, and I'm gonna be amongst the people. Yeah. And when I'm done speaking, I'm still gonna be amongst the people. Have a fun time trying to find me after I'm done speaking, because I'm going to be amongst the crowd. I appreciate the speaker's table. Yeah. And I appreciate that. That's wonderful. I will go and sit there and talk with the other speakers. I will eat my salad there, but when my main course comes out, I'm picking it up and I'm going to another table. And when dessert comes, I'm taking that dessert plate and I'm going to another table, because I'm going to meet the people. That's what I'm going to be your lighting guy's worst nightmare. Oh my goodness. Oh yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I was the same way. I mean, I loved it. It worked for me. That was why I was brought to these conferences. I did conferences in Vegas, Oregon, all over the place. Did one in Virginia. I enjoyed it. I got out of doing that because I wanted to spend more time with my family, because it was getting to the point where they were getting me every other week, wanting me to go fly out to here, go to there. It's like, you know what? Again, we're coming back to my priorities. My priorities are these guys. Yeah. Our priorities are right here underneath our roof. Yep. And I can do my conferences now from my office in the house. Yeah. You see? There we go. And that's the thing, is like, again, if I personally can't stress anything else, it's all about our priorities, and it doesn't matter, that it's a business priority or a relationship priority. Your priorities have to be set, and they have to be checked. And until you can check those priorities, you're going to have a miserable life, and you're going to be very hard off, and you're going to be very hard pressed to find true happiness. And that is the bottom line. Where are your priorities? What are they? Are you going to help? Are you going to help your family? Are you going to help your business? Can you help them both at the same time? You sure can. But remember, at the end of the day, the job is probably going to be gone, and your family hopefully will still be there intact. And you've got to always remember that. I think this is the best way to wrap up today's show. I agree. Chris, I want you to give out your information for everybody who's listening on the audio version, and for those who are watching us. I would just give it out there. I want them to know how to get a hold of you. Okay. So my name again is Christopher Fairbank. My phone number, you can always call me. That's fine too. And that's 803-361-0618. My email address is christopher@christopherfairbank.com. And my website is christopherfairbank.com. And that's my info. Awesome. Well, to all my listeners out there, I will have all that information in the show notes as well. And once again, I want to thank you, Christopher, for coming on the show. Like I said, this has been a blast. We've gone 2 hours, didn't even feel like it. I just looked down a minute ago, went,
Damn. 2 hours sailed right on by. But I've had a really good time tonight. And to all my listeners out there, I just want you guys to know that this is the reason I bring everybody on this show. I want them to bring something that can enrich your life, bring something that can benefit you. And everything that Christopher has talked about this evening is something that can benefit you. Once again, I'm going to have his contact information in the show notes. And if you need to get a hold of me, once again, you know my email address is stalkermailbox@gmail.com. I see Christopher over there laughing. Do you want to know the background behind that?
Yes, please. Because when I emailed you, I was laughing so hard.
Everybody laughs. Okay. That started out as a joke when I wrote my first book. This podcast was originally started by me and my oldest son 7 years ago. When he was just getting into high school, he wanted to do a podcast. And I was like, great, I'll do it with you. Well, he made the comment about me publishing my first book. And he's like, oh, man. And I started getting emails on it through the publisher. And he's like, oh, man, you already got stalkers. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to give him an email address. And while we were on the show, I started typing in stalkermailbox@gmail.com. Oh, hell, that's not taken. I'm going to keep it. I've had it all these years. And that email address actually went into the cover of all of my books so people could contact me.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it.
And so it is hilarious because it's like I've had people email me. Yeah, can I talk with you? I'm not really a stalker. So I tell people in public, yeah, you can email me at stalkermailbox@gmail.com. And they're like, what?
Excuse me?
But guess what? They remember it.
Yeah, they do.
So there we go. Stalkermailbox@gmail.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're going to wrap it up for the night. 2 hours and 15 minutes now. This is going to be a long one for you, but it's well worth the listen. So with that, guys, we're out of here. Chris, you got any final words you want to say?
Nope. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and enjoy.
Great. We'll talk to you guys later.
Now, here comes the music.
We want to thank you for tuning in to the Anything Goes project. If you like this show, subscribe and share it. That would greatly help us out. To contact the show, email us at stalkermailbox@gmail.com. We love hearing from our subscribers and our listeners. The Anything Goes project can be found on iTunes, CastBox, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and many other Android applications. And once again, thanks for listening.